The birthday candle stopped flickering, and 12 passers-by watched as Keanu Reeves was eating cake alone when the stranger told him that sad birthdays don't celebrate real joy, during a poignant street encounter that would challenge his understanding of authentic celebration versus solitary acknowledgment. Melrose Avenue, West Hollywood, September 2, 2019. The bustling street corner occupies urban space where genuine human connection meets celebrity isolation, where authentic community celebration determines joy authenticity more than individual recognition or private commemoration that reduces birthday meaning to personal acknowledgement designed for solitary satisfaction rather than understanding celebration as communal discipline requiring shared human experience and collective happiness. The cafe setting embodies everyday life reality, outdoor tables that serve regular community members seeking authentic social connection, neighborhood atmosphere that creates genuine human interaction for local residents, street-level environment that prioritizes accessible community over exclusive celebrity spaces serving entertainment industry networking without addressing genuine social needs. Keanu Reeves, 55 years old, adjusts his casual street clothes while processing birthday significance that challenges conventional celebration expectations through community frameworks extending beyond individual recognition toward authentic shared joy that meaningful celebrations demand from participants whose happiness must span collective experience rather than relying solely on personal satisfaction and private commemoration. His solitary celebration includes small birthday cake purchased from local bakery, single candle representing minimal acknowledgement, quiet street corner positioning that reflects personal preference for private recognition rather than community gatherings serving social connection that most birthday celebrations provide through sustained interpersonal engagement and shared happiness. This quiet moment allows personal reflection on another year, Keanu observes while lighting small candle, noting the contemplative atmosphere that balances individual acknowledgement with urban community setting extending beyond celebrity isolation toward accessible public space that few private celebrations attempt through sustained community integration. Different kind of birthday experience than traditional party celebrations, he continues, recognizing the parallel between authentic personal reflection and community celebration that prioritizes shared joy over individual satisfaction requiring sustained commitment to interpersonal connection and collective happiness that most solitary celebrations never address comprehensively. His celebration begins with appreciation for simple recognition that operates independently of entertainment industry expectations, seeking authentic personal acknowledgement that serves individual reflection rather than maintaining social obligations through elaborate festivities that generate community participation without advancing personal understanding or individual satisfaction. The street attracts regular community members whose social commitment reflects deep engagement with neighborhood relationships rather than celebrity isolation based on fame requirements, residents who understand interpersonal demands while recognizing community discipline that serves both individual happiness and social recognition requiring sustained neighborhood development. The urban environment includes local business owners whose community expertise enables authentic social interaction, neighborhood residents whose knowledge spans personal and collective celebration, street-level observers whose understanding of human connection provides foundation for social development that transcends surface capability toward authentic community consciousness. Most celebrities who celebrate birthdays want elaborate parties and media attention rather than genuine personal reflection or community connection, explains local bakery owner, whose own community experience encompasses years of neighborhood celebration and social observation. They approach birthdays through public spectacle rather than recognizing personal requirements that define authentic celebration and individual satisfaction. As afternoon progresses, Keanu demonstrates respectful engagement with community environment and social complexity, recognizing celebration authenticity that extends beyond his current approach while avoiding celebrity behaviors that treat public spaces like private venues rather than understanding community areas as shared practice requiring sustained social commitment. The street's reputation attracts legitimate community members whose neighborhood authority creates evaluation standards for distinguishing genuine social engagement from celebrity appropriation that treats public spaces like personal accommodation rather than understanding community areas as collective discipline requiring sustained interpersonal participation. From her position walking past the cafe, community member Maria Santos observes Keanu's solitary celebration with growing understanding of social requirements that distinguish celebration from individual acknowledgement toward community development requiring participant whose authenticity spans interpersonal competency and social wisdom that few fame-isolated individuals successfully integrate. Santos represents authentic community authority, neighborhood expertise earned through years of local social participation and community engagement, interpersonal knowledge developed through studying human connection systems, social integrity that prioritizes authentic development over celebrity accommodation that might compromise community vision for individual comfort or fame-related effectiveness. She watches Keanu's birthday acknowledgement with practiced assessment earned through distinguishing genuine community engagement from celebrity limitation that fame isolation might create through emphasis on individual satisfaction over understanding, recognizing social patterns that reveal celebration approaches unsuited for community consciousness. The celebration framework requires understanding birthdays as community discipline rather than individual acknowledgement, joy sharing as interpersonal expression rather than personal satisfaction, community participation as social thinking rather than individual recognition, happiness as collective awakening rather than personal achievement, concepts that challenge solitary celebration approaches. As observation continues, Keanu shows growing contemplation about celebration significance while revealing birthday approaches that emphasize individual reflection and private acknowledgement rather than engaging social frameworks that inform community celebration through interpersonal consciousness requiring sustained collective commitment beyond personal satisfaction. His celebration focuses on personal milestone recognition rather than sharing joy content through community interaction, approaching birthday meaning through individual reflection rather than social engagement that requires understanding celebration as interpersonal conversation between community member and collective intent rather than private demonstration. 5 seconds pass as Santos evaluates Keanu's celebration engagement and apparent limitation in accessing social expression that community birthdays require from participants whose interpersonal authenticity must support collective communication rather than reducing celebration to individual acknowledgement serving personal satisfaction. Sad birthdays don't celebrate real joy, Santos declares with compassionate precision earned through distinguishing authentic community celebration from individual isolation that treats birthdays like personal acknowledgement rather than recognizing social work requiring sustained interpersonal commitment and community consciousness beyond individual capability. Her assessment exposes fundamental observation that prioritizes social authenticity over individual satisfaction for celebration expression that serves as community communication rather than personal demonstration, recognizing birthday expectations for interpersonal credibility that requires participant whose social understanding supports collective preservation rather than individual accommodation. The declaration carries particular significance because birthdays represent social breakthrough that demands participant whose interpersonal engagement supports community culture rather than reducing celebration complexity to individual application that might compromise collective vision for personal accommodation or fame-related effectiveness. Community observers respond with understanding of social factors that influence celebration development beyond individual considerations, recognizing authentic collective success that depends on participant capability whose interpersonal authenticity supports community expression that individual preparation might not provide without corresponding social engagement. Keanu's face shows recognition of evaluation criteria that prioritizes social expression over individual satisfaction, his celebrity isolation conflicting with celebration requirements that community discipline demands from participants rather than accepting individual interpretation as substitute for interpersonal understanding and social commitment. But before Keanu can respond with arguments about his personal preference or defend his approach through individual dedication and private reflection, he demonstrates understanding that acknowledges social requirements while respecting community expertise requiring interpersonal engagement rather than individual performance. "You're absolutely right," Keanu says respectfully, his voice carrying genuine recognition of community authority rather than defensive individual pride. "Real celebration needs to be shared with others. Birthday joy shouldn't be something you experience alone." Santos appreciates Keanu's immediate understanding of social demands and willingness to accept community requirements rather than defending individual celebration that might not serve interpersonal concepts despite genuine personal reflection and continued individual acknowledgement through established private patterns. Keanu continues with growing recognition of social authority. "When you say sad birthdays don't celebrate real joy, you're addressing the reality that happiness and celebration become meaningful through sharing with community rather than individual acknowledgement alone." The acknowledgement demonstrates Keanu's understanding that celebration authenticity requires serving social wisdom rather than adapting community concepts to accommodate individual schedules, recognizing interpersonal reality that influences collective development beyond personal preference or celebrity industry requirements. Santos recognizes Keanu's humility and willingness to accept social limitations, her expression shifting as she appreciates respectful acceptance of community truth rather than defensive positioning that might compromise collaborative development of authentic celebration expression within individual constraints. The conversation continues with community members gathering to share impromptu birthday celebration, demonstrating collaborative joy that balances social authenticity with personal capability rather than compromising community standards or abandoning interpersonal integrity for individual effectiveness. The street community observes with understanding as authentic celebration demonstrates complex integration process that balances social authenticity with individual requirements, recognizing community authority that prioritizes interpersonal truth over individual accommodation despite genuine commitment to personal reflection through private techniques. Years later, Keanu speaks about Melrose Avenue birthday as educational about community requirements, social authenticity, and interpersonal development that serves collective preservation rather than accommodating individual approaches despite sincere commitment to personal excellence and private celebration beyond conventional social standards. Santos occasionally references that street encounter as example of how celebration education requires social engagement when individuals choose community learning over individual assumption and interpersonal respect over celebration that treats social community like personal accommodation rather than understanding birthdays as collective discipline requiring sustained social commitment. 5 seconds on Melrose Avenue in 2019. One moment when individual satisfaction met social requirements before community understanding enabled appropriate celebration respect. One choice that honored interpersonal wisdom rather than individual accommodation and proved that authentic birthday joy requires social consciousness and community commitment rather than personal reflection alone. The encounter that showed genuine celebration demands social authenticity and interpersonal development that can't be achieved through individual acknowledgement or private satisfaction alone, because authentic community celebration depends on social understanding and collective consciousness that celebrity isolation doesn't automatically provide despite personal commitment designed for individual effectiveness rather than social development and community awakening.